first-time job seekers and a lot of young people are very gullible with this. They have been conditioned to believe that, when someone in a seeming authority position tells you something, they must be telling you the truth. Well, unfortunately, this is why this question is asked. Because, you see, if you ask a typical recruiter how you should answer this question, what they will say is, when you are asked, what is your weakness, you should be honest. Give them your weakness. All we want to do is know that you are aware of your own faults. You are aware that you have faults. You've identified them, and you are working on them. That's all we want to know. You see how beautiful that sounds? Unfortunately, it's complete bullshit because that's not why they asked that question. Now, I'm not saying that that never happens. Maybe in some corners of the world, there might be a couple of people that actually do ask that question for that reason. But what the vast majority of recruiters ask that question for is to get the dirt on you. They're talking to a lot of people. And the process from their perspective is like a big funnel, okay? You start with hundreds of applications, like applicants. You then filter it down to a select few that you interview. So maybe anywhere between 5 and 20. And then you often have more than one round of interviews. So you might have a screening interview that you do with, say, 100 people or 50 people. Then you get like an actual full job interview that goes down to maybe 10 people. And then you do another round of job interviews, which goes down to about 6 people. And then you have a final 3 from which you could do a third interview, or you just pick the winner, right? So it's an elimination process, right? So when you start with like 10 candidates that you're interviewing, and keep in mind that these 10 candidates, on paper, they're all fully qualified to do the job. It doesn't make any sense to choose people to interview that on paper can't do the job. I mean, even if you love them as a person, you still can't hire them because they can't do the job, right? So everyone that they're interviewing on paper has the necessary qualifications to do the job. What the interviews are about is more than that. They want to know what you're like as a person. Do you have a terrible temper? Are you the type of person that you quit every job you start after like a month? In which case, you probably will quit this job if they hire you, right? After a month. Are you the type of person that refuses to work with anyone? Or are you the type of person that you can't communicate properly with your boss? You mumble, they misunderstand what you're saying. They tell you to do something, you don't understand what they said. That's going to be a problem, right? So these are the types of things they're looking for in an interview. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to find things to use to eliminate you. So what better way, what's the laziest way you could do this is by asking a candidate, tell me, what's your weakness? If I was going to eliminate you for something, what would that something be, right? And then a lot of candidates that are young and innocent, they go, oh, well, good question. Well, I'm a raging alcoholic. I hate everyone. I especially don't want to do this for the rest of my life. And I think that big corporations are all evil, and I regard them as the enemy, and they must be stopped, and I'm going to stop them. And then the recruiter says, okay, well, hey, thank you. That was a great answer. Thank you for sharing that. Now I know who you are, and this is great. It gives me some great insight into you. And then they never call you back, right? That's the whole point. You see, you've revealed all the dirt and all the stuff you were trying to hide, right? You just told them all. So that's why they asked this question, right? They use it as a basis to eliminate you. So all that being said, how should we answer? We don't want to give them a real weakness that they could use to eliminate us, right? But we can't say something stupid like, oh, I have no weaknesses, or, all those other kiss-off things. What's your weakness? Chocolate. They know all of those, you know what I mean? And they can see through them. They know you're not being honest, and that counts against you, right? So you got to give them something. So what do you give them that makes them not eliminate you? Well, here's what I recommend. Think of something awesome that you do that has a trade-off. Okay? Like, think of a trade-off. the examples I use are like, I do very high quality work, which is good. But the problem is it takes a bit of time. It's like, you could either do something fast and quick, or you could do something properly but slower. That's usually how those work, right? They kind of go like this, right? You can't really have both, all things being equal. You could have it faster, but it won't be as good by definition. So there's other trade-offs too. I've got very high standards, but the problem is it's hard to work with me. Not everybody shares those standards. So think of something awesome that you do, okay? And then say the side effect, the trade-off. You could say like, well, what's your weakness? Well, I take a little bit of extra time to do things. I'm not the first one finished. Other people are faster than me at doing their job. But I produce the best quality work of anyone in the group. So you're giving a weakness. You're starting off by giving a weakness, but you're saying it's an understandable trade-off to something I do that's awesome, right? So that's a good answer. Now that's just like a template. You can fill in whatever thing describes you, okay? But I'm going to go one step further. You get bonus points if you can then say another thing you do that makes it so that initial weakness you said never ends up being a problem. Okay, so it's like 3 things you say. So they say, what is your weakness? And you say something like, well, I'm not the fastest worker, but it's because I take the extra trouble to verify everything I do, make sure it's done properly. And for that reason, I produce the best quality work of anyone in the group, right? But what I found is that if I go to my boss, when my boss assigns me the work, and I say, listen, okay, no problem, I will do that. I will do the job you've given me. But now, if I were to finish in, say, 2 hours, is that okay? I give them a time frame that it's going to take me to do it. And 90% of the time they say, sure, yeah, that's fine. So the whole fact that I go a bit slower, it ends up never being a problem. So in the end, you've answered their question. You've given them something legitimate that is a weakness. So they can't say you didn't answer the question or you're being hostile, right? But they can't eliminate you for it because it's an understandable side effect of something you do that's awesome, right? That makes you a good employee. And then you've also, as a bonus, said another awesome thing that you do. So you've used this negative question as a platform to tell them 2 things about you that are awesome, that are reasons why they should hire you and pick you. Okay, so that's how I would recommend you answer that question. I know that was terribly long-winded, but hopefully you understand the reasoning behind this and why I'm saying to say that.